purpose today is to be able to identify, describe, and to explain the 5 stages of grief. Okay? And as I went over our agenda, we will be reading literature by Kubler-Ross. We will be creating a foldable to take notes. And then we're going to use our foldable, our notes that we take from the literature to create a personal reflection. We are going to read this handout that I have prepared for you, and it's literature by Kubler-Ross. And what Kubler-Ross does is she talks about basically the 5 stages of grief. She introduces it, and then she elaborates each stage. She explains what denial is, what anger is, what bargaining is compared to depression, and then acceptance. Okay? So what I would like all of us to do is not just to read this handout and then highlight everything that we think is important or neat or interesting. What we're actually going to do is you're going to follow me. You're going to sit in my shoes, in my little stool here, and you're going to listen to my voice, and I want you to pay attention to some of the things that I think is important. And what I'm going to look for are verbs, symptoms that will help me understand what each stage is. I'm going to highlight what I want to know and what I think is important to remember about denial. And when I think of that, again, I'm looking for verbs, I'm looking for symptoms. And so with verbs or action words to describe denial, and with symptoms or maybe more emotions to express and to explain how one may feel with denial. Okay, so follow along with me. This first stage of grieving helps us to survive the loss. In this stage, the world becomes meaningless and overwhelming. That's important. World becomes meaningless and overwhelming. So, as I read denial, I realized that, okay, I know what denial means, but in the stages of grief, I want to remember that it's shock. I want to remember that it's feeling numb, accepting reality, but maybe not at first, but eventually through denial, one learns to accept it because they start to question themselves. Okay? So, with what I highlighted, I want us to open up our foldable. And I would like you to take notes like so. And when I refer to notes, I'm referring to notes from the literature, from the handout, from what we just read and highlighted. So that's notes. On the left-hand side, I came up with several sentence starters for you because when you write your personal reflection, I want to help you construct your sentences to start your description of denial, of anger, and so on. Okay? So on the left-hand side are sentence starters. I didn't think. This is unbelievable. There's no way. You guys can go ahead and write that down. And then together, I will show you what I would like you guys to write down in the notes section. Follow along with me and to see how I am going to organize my notes. As you can see, I only have so much space to write. Okay, I have so much space to write. So I want to make sure that when I take the notes, I'm not writing everything word for what I highlighted. What I would like us to do is to take notes. Can I borrow this real quick? Off of our literature. And what we're going to do is turn the page, and we're going to go on to anger. And as I go on to anger, as I'm reading it, I would like you to tell me what you would like to highlight. So if you have a sentence, just say stop, and then we can go back into the sentence and then highlight, again, remember the verbs and the symptoms for this stage. Go back to your text, that's fine. Look at what we highlighted, review back to it.
The more you feel it, the more it will dissipate and the more you will heal.
What you're going to do now on your own independently is I would like you to do the same thing for the last 3 stages. So on your own, you will go ahead and read the handout in front of you. You will go ahead and highlight the important verbs and symptoms for that stage. And then as you open it, go ahead and write down the notes that you thought was important. As we have completed our foldable, our notes on the 5 stages of grief, what I would like us to do then is to use this foldable, use the notes we have, and the sentence starters that we wrote down to now create a personal reflection. Use this foldable, ladies and gentlemen. Use this foldable. Open it. I want you to look at the sentence starters to help you to construct your writing assignment. I want you to tie in the information that you gathered from the literature, in which you condensed when you highlighted and then further summarized in your note-taking guide.